Hey, all, Pastor Emil here with another special episode of Sweet Jesus. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet. Lots of other things in life are sweet. Having electricity and heat is definitely sweet, but Jesus is far sweeter. I'm coming to you again with another special episode of the Hymns of the Passion. These are hymns, 50 hymns that were put together by an Icelandic priest from the mid 17th century. You may be wondering why I would be interested in Icelandic literature. I'm not really all that cosmopolitan or cool, but I happen to be Icelandic. My dad is actually from Iceland, and so I've been to Iceland a whole bunch. I've actually been to the church named after this guy. It's really a neat church, a beautiful building, and so many. It kind of takes up this beautiful spot in the city as well. And my parents gave me this. I've known about it for a while. I think I've even heard some of them said over the radio at various points. They still use them as part of their Lenten traditions this time of year. And so I just thought that as I'm thinking about slowing down and trying to practice some of these spiritual disciplines, I thought maybe it would be helpful that these meditations on the suffering of Jesus might be helpful for you, and certainly helpful for me to slow down, to go through them, to think about them, and to contemplate Jesus and his suffering and death on our behalf. So here we go with Passion Hymn number 2, Christ's Sufferings in the Garden. Into the garden Jesus came, Gethsemane its pregnant name, which signifies an olive press. Ah, there began his soul's distress. Salvation's oil extracted thus brings health and life and joy to us. 'Twas in a garden Adam fell. There first was told God's judgment knell. But here came forth the Son of Man, claimed as his own that awful ban, made once more ours the tree of life, and weeded out the seeds of strife. That place was known to Judas well, as suited to his purpose fell. That scene he saw was fitly set to land his master in his net. And thus he pondered day by day, there was the place to seize his prey. Thus does the evil one observe, where I may from God's pathway swerve, watches to plant a wily snare, if I neglect my daily prayer, but flashes most his fiery sword in paths where most I serve my Lord. And evil men have learned the art to cover well their venom's dart, with lies to lay their hidden snares, to take my footsteps unawares. Lord Jesus, let not their device ever my soul from thee entice. Oft in that garden's pleasant shade our Master with his comrade stayed. He knew that here the scene was laid, where he would basely be betrayed. And here he sought from God in prayer the strength his heavy load to bear. God has his garden with us here, where rest his sleeping saints so dear. As you pass by each narrow bed, reflect how soon your silvern thread may snap, and you like them shall wait the resurrection's opened gate. He left his friends in darkness dim, but 3 he chose to take with him. He longed that they his watch should share, while he poured out his soul in prayer. My soul, learn thou from this to seek true friendship's joy when thou art weak. God's church is like a garden fair. Thou art one of his workmen there. Remain thou then where he decrees, on open ground or amongst the trees, and at his call to watch and pray, let not the cross thy soul dismay. And when in conflict's fateful hour you fear the tempter's awful power, think not in empty solitude his fierce temptations to elude. God plans in mercy quick to send that gift of gifts, a loyal friend. With sorrow's load his soul was bowed beneath the awful judgment cloud, his human nature sore distressed, no solace found, no peace, no rest. Even to death my soul, he said, is crushed by sorrow's burden dread. He went from them a little space, then faltering fell upon his face. His agony like ocean wave swept o'er him, my vile soul to save. No tongue can tell, nor mind assess, the measure of his soul's distress. My conscience smites me with the thought that hereby was my freedom bought. 'Twas sin of mine that tortured thee. All this thy suffering was for me. Oh, how I grieve that deeds of mine should fill with gall that cup of thine. My sin, it seems, has greater weight than all my Lord did e'er create. He, by the word of his great power, upholds creation to this hour. Yet bearing all my sin's disgrace, he sank in horror on his face. What confidence, what joy of heart, these truths sublime to me impart. The ransom paid for me was worth more than the wealth of heaven and earth. His depth of grief, the pains he bore, absolve my soul for evermore. There on his face his prayer he made, and sought his Father's willing aid. O take from me this bitter cup, yet at thy word I drink it up. Thy will, not mine, be ever done. Thus to the Father spake the Son. So when his footstool thou wilt seek, make thou thy prayer in accents meek. No rash impatience there has place. All thou obtainest is through grace. Let never murmur there be heard, no self-willed tones, nor hasty word. Of the Almighty's bounteous store, only his grace can open the door. Not for the flesh, to please thy whim, shalt thou in self-will ask of him. His hand a myriad creatures feeds. He knows full well thy many needs. With worship both in mind and mien, before thy Lord thou shalt be seen. His eyes behold the hidden man, and all our outward conduct scan. With reverence and godly fear, like Abraham of old, draw near. Thou, Lord, in thy Gethsemane, plantedst a bower of joy for me. Thy heart sore bruised my heart has healed. Thy blood the rebel's pardon sealed. Hence shall my life, while here I dwell, extol thee, my Emmanuel. It's the end of hymn 2, poem 2. And there's a lot of thee and thou and some older language throughout this, but hopefully you're getting some of the nuggets here, the big nuggets, talking about Gethsemane and the name, what it means, and sort of the olive press, and where Jesus is being pressed on all sides by the weight of sin. Salvation's oil extracted thus, he says, brings health and life and joy to us. And that's where his soul's distress began. He talks about the garden where Adam fell, and here's another garden. He talks about the evil one watches to plant a wily snare if I neglect my daily prayer, but flashes most his fiery sword in paths where most I serve my Lord. And so here's Jesus, a place he frequents, and in fact he goes to pray often. And this is where the trap of Satan is laid. So places we frequent, places where we are even trying to do the Lord's will and draw closer to the Lord, even those places are traps of the evil one. He talks about his friends, the need for friendship, and the great gift of a loyal friend to be with him in this dark hour, this hour of temptation and solitude and loneliness, and what a gift to have loyal friends. So many things in here. No tongue can tell, nor mind assess the measure of his soul's distress, and how this agony is part of what he had to face in order for us to endure the cross, in order for us to enjoy the benefits of the cross. A lot of cool stuff in here. Hopefully you get a little something out of it. I don't want to do too much. I want to kind of just let you sit with it and maybe listen to it again. Hopefully you'll hear some things that will deepen your appreciation for all that Jesus did to save us, the way he began to experience the abandonment, the separation from God that we should have for eternity. But Jesus begins to endure in that garden as the dark cloud of sin, as he who knew no sin became sin for us, and God sort of withdraws himself from him. That's part of this. That's probably the worst part of everything. It's not the nails. It's this utter loneliness, this utter despair of what the fullness of sin, the full effect of sin really does. So again, hope this is helpful for you in your Lenten journey. God bless you. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Remember that lots of things in life are sweet, but Jesus is far sweeter. Bye-bye.